Hello everyone, my name is Nathan and today it's time for the probably final episode of ESO, The Elder Scrolls Online. Today I will let you know about my thoughts on the game after playing enough hours to be able to make a judgment for myself. Now, some of you probably know that I wanted to find something that would be a replacement for World of Warcraft for me. Now, I haven't played World of Warcraft in years, actually. I played it last until the end of Wrath of the Lich King, so I didn't play the last two expansions, basically. Now, instead of getting back into World of Warcraft and paying another subscription, I tried a whole bunch of MMOs, and ESO kind of caught my attention. I did enjoy my first few hours in the game a lot. There are a lot of aspects I really like, but unfortunately also a couple I don't like. So maybe let's start with what I like. First of all, the skill system is absolutely awesome. As you use stuff, as you have it present in your everyday gameplay, you are going to level it and then you can do something with it skill-wise. That is absolutely amazing. I also like the beautiful graphics of the game. They are of course a lot better than World of Warcraft. I mean, WoW is of course stylized, where ESO tries to go for a more realistic approach, which I found that a good change, but graphics aren't everything, right? I also like that there is kind of an incentive to explore the world, because you can do all of the professions and you also get rewarded with the sky shards and everything. So exploration is a lot of fun and always rewards you with something. What I kind of have mixed feelings about is the voice acting. I mean, it's great that they acted out everything, but I found myself a lot of the times bored, and I kept reading ahead and then just skipping their dialogue because they talk so slowly sometimes. I mean, I'm really interested in the lore, but just looking at a 3D character barely moving and talking, I sometimes don't have the patience for that. But I listed that as a positive point because I have the option to skip it, right? And if I want to listen to it, then somebody reads it out to me. So that's pretty good. What I also really like is the bounty system. This is incredibly cool that you can actually commit crimes and then the guards are coming after you. I don't know how far they take it. Maybe you can be thrown into prison or you're gonna be killed on the spot. I don't know yet. So yeah, the overall gameplay is something that I also like. I like the professions and everything, but let me tell you what I don't like. And that list is unfortunately a little bit longer. And I have to say, in a lot of the aspects I'm mentioning now, World of Warcraft does a better job. And I maybe can already take away that playing ESO for the past few weeks, it made me actually go back to World of Warcraft. I leveled up a character to level 70 in just a couple of days, and I did realize a lot has changed, and actually for the better, at least in my opinion. Now, one thing I can't do in this video is make a judgment about the end game and comparing them to World of Warcraft, for instance. I just haven't reached the end game just yet, but I'm not sure I do want to reach it with how it looks right now. Okay, so I have a list right here. It's in no particular order, but I just listed a couple of problems that I came across and want to talk about today. So let's start with the free-to-pay model, for instance. There is a lot of stuff in the shop that should be easier to acquire through normal gameplay. I mean, you can, for instance, purchase mounts in the game, you can purchase additional back slots in the game, but they are so expensive that it feels like an incentive to instead go to the shop and give them some money. I'd rather have, a subscription and fair prices in game. It's not a pay-to-win system, so that's alright. It just makes things more convenient for you. You get more cosmetics as well. But there are just a few things in the shop I don't like that they are there. While acquiring the same thing through in-game means is made really hard. So making things in-game tedious to make people go to the shop, that's something I don't like. So the next point, and as I said, it's not in a particular order, but the next point is followers get in your freaking way all the time. I mean, if you stop, they just come up to you, and then if you hit the E button in the wrong moment, you pick up the dialogue with them, the action camera turns around, and you have to undo that dialogue once again. This is pretty annoying. Maybe there's a way to disable that, I'm not sure, but I don't know what they were thinking when they designed it this way. Another thing I don't like are the mounts. I mean, I do like the sprinting functionality. On the other side, running from one place to the other using the sprint button is sometimes a little bit agonizing. I'd rather have a toggle, maybe. That's also something I should check in the settings, but I doubt they have a toggle for the sprinting. So I don't like that you have to wait one in-game day in order to upgrade your horse even more. Your horse starts really slow and then you can only upgrade it once a day and you have to wait for a really long time. The same thing actually happens with the research for your crafting, but that's another thing. So I can understand timers in certain situations, but you have to play for days with a really slow horse, and this is another incentive to actually go to the shop and purchase the upgrades for the horse using real money. You see where I'm going with this. Also, I don't think there is flying in the game, and that's actually something I haven't checked yet. It might be, you know, I have only been in 2 zones so far. There's a lot of content for ESO, and I wouldn't be surprised if you could fly a dragon, but I just haven't seen anybody using flying mounts yet. Another thing that is really bad is the limited action bar. I mean, you're limited to basically 10 spells plus 2 special spells and 2 different weapons. Now, I really like the idea of being able to swap your action bar using a different weapon and that your playstyle changes using that different weapon. This makes for a really flexible class, even in combat. I really like the idea. However, limiting that to 10 buttons just so that it's possible to do it with a gamepad is a no-go for me as a World of Warcraft player, because I'm used playing my skills using number 1 through 5 and then having additional skills using shift 1 through 5 and then control 1 through 5 and then alt 1 through 5. And that wasn't it, there was everything that I was able to click with the mouse as well. And there were also different things such as add-ons that I can use to heal properly, give myself a good overview. So yeah, that's that. Another thing I don't really like is the action combat. I mean, for some things you have to aim, for other things you don't have to aim. It's not really satisfying. In the end, it's still a tap targeting system with certain effects having to be aimed. And it's not action combat enough for my tastes to justify losing the flexibility of your camera. So I'm used to being able to look somewhere and have my character pointing into a different direction, still using all of my skills. And here I'm kind of limited, but what for? It's not really action combat. I still have to tap my priority target, and my skills are sometimes not going where I want them, even if I have my mouse pointed somewhere else. So it is not really immersive and therefore doesn't justify the loss of the camera control. Another thing that is really annoying is the jumping in this game. The jumping is really bad, the hitboxes of rocks are really bad. This is so unimmersive for me. I have to be able to jump into logical places, and sometimes I'm just hovering mid-air over a rock and it just feels awkward, and it's really something that bothers me. It shouldn't, but it does. Then I have crafting next on my list. The crafting is a good idea. You know, I like the idea in general. However, the freaking interface basically ruins everything. It is so agonizing with all the materials, and then you have to run to the bank, which is an incentive to purchase their banker that you can summon from the crown store with real money. So you really have to run to the bank a lot if you don't have a subscription, because then your inventory just gets clogged up with all the materials that you're gathering up. But overall, the professions I like the idea of. It's a bit tedious that you always have to go to the crafting stations, and it just takes up a lot of time going through the interface. I don't like that. I like a clean interface where I can do stuff very quickly, have an overview where I can craft multiple items at a time. It's just a mess, and it's the UI's interface that kind of tries to go after Skyrim or the Elder Scrolls in general. But let's just face it, I mean, this interface is not very convenient. Now, one major thing I dislike about the game is that it is instanced. So basically, all the time I have a loading screen. Sometimes it takes a long time, sometimes it just goes a few seconds, but every time I enter a house, every time I enter a cave, etc, it's just instanced all the freaking time. I wouldn't mind if different zones were instanced. instanced. Okay, so we have a big zone, but within the zone you enter caves, you enter buildings, and everything is instanced, and it just takes away from the immersion. I don't like it. Another thing I have listed here is the guild system. So you don't have an auction house, apparently. I don't understand it because I haven't joined the guild just yet, but as far as I understood it, you have to kind of join a trading guild and then you can trade right there instead of just a global auction house of some sorts. So that's just something I don't understand why that is even necessary. What I do like is that you can join multiple guilds, maybe for multiple purposes. That is cool. And I also like the guild system within the game. So the NPCs, and that you can become a mage or a warrior or whatever. You can also become a werewolf or a vampire. Those are all great things. Nothing in that list is a game breaker in itself, but you know, adding all of these things up, I can't see myself getting into this game for years, because that's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking for a MMO that I can always play when I don't fancy playing anything else. Okay, let me see. We're almost through the list here. I listed here killing gives more XP than actual questing. Now, this isn't something I can say for sure, but I also heard it from other players. It's just faster, I mean massively faster to do dungeons, for instance, or just kill mobs and farm them instead of doing the questing, because sometimes you have to walk for a long time and you only get very little XP for it. So that's something I'm not entirely sure about, but that would also be not very cool. Now, one thing I already touched upon is the research for your crafting abilities. You have to research certain traits. I love that system, I love the idea, but you know, researching takes anything from 3 hours to I don't know, multiple days. This is just insane. Multiple days? Ah, come on. I mean, okay, it could be, let's say, an hour or two, I understand that. But multiple days just to research a trait, that is ridiculous. I wouldn't be surprised if there is something in the shop that makes you speed things up. You know, I wouldn't be surprised. Good, now I have a few more things on my list that I don't understand what I meant when I wrote them down. Now there's a lot more things I liked about ESO. I mean, I played it for a few days in-game time. I'm not sure, maybe not even, but I definitely played it over 24 hours, I'm sure of that. I tried multiple classes, I tried multiple specs, and I know I haven't reached the end game and I cannot really make a judgment, but I can, you know, tell that I won't be able to like this game. And the biggest reason is the freaking interface. I mean, the bags. Oh, come on, let me sort the bags however I want. I mean, it's incredibly bad without an add-on, but even add-ons cannot save it because you cannot sort stuff the way you want it. All those freaking categories. I mean, come on, I don't want to filter through all the categories just to find an item. I believe there isn't even a search function in the auction house. I heard someone say, maybe that's something they fixed, but it's just clunky, and having to deal with that for hours at a time, I don't think I can go through this. I mean, look at World of Warcraft. Everything with the interface is so convenient, and there are so many features. The questing is so much more interesting. Even if you don't freaking read all the text, the questing itself is just made better, and it's also repetitive, don't get me wrong. Questing will always be repetitive in an MMO. If you want to level up to level cap, it's always gonna be agonizing. However, World of Warcraft just does a better job for me, and playing ESO recently just made me go back to World of Warcraft, trying it out again, giving it a shot. I'm level 70 at the moment. I think I'm gonna make a couple of videos about that as well. And I just want to see again what it's like with World of Warcraft. Maybe paid subscriptions for games aren't that bad after all. But yeah, there we go. Those are the reasons why I won't be playing ESO in the future. Doesn't mean I'm never gonna go back to it, giving it a chance every once and then. But right now, as it stands, it's not giving me what I was looking for. So once again, I'm gonna go back to WoW until I find my perfect replacement. So to wrap this up, I want to ask you guys, do you still play World of Warcraft? Or in general, do you play another MMO? And if yes, which one is it? But if you still play World of Warcraft, maybe you are also interested in making a guild together. I'm really considering getting back into the game a little bit again. I don't want to do the hardcore thing. I can handle my druid pretty well, so I'm definitely into heroics and maybe even mythics. But raiding, it just takes too long in general. I don't have time for 5 hours. But yeah, let me know. That would be cool to know how many of you guys still play World of Warcraft. But with that out of the way, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little mini-series, this test drive of ESO. Have a great time, and hopefully I'm going to catch you in the next video. Bye bye.